Hello, I'm Tian Wei, and welcome to World Insight. The world is embracing Asian consumers, with the majority of them likely from China. Some of the world's largest investment banks have this to say about Chinese consumers. Chinese consumers, with the growth of their purchasing power, their needs and preferences will have a great impact on the global economy. Despite of the challenges from the pandemic and geopolitics, Chinese consumers are still being regarded as a force crucial to the global economy today. That's also why China International Consumer Products Expo, also known as the Hainan Expo this year, once again attracts so many eyeballs after it kicks off this week. The country of France is the guest of honor of the expo this time. Couture, cosmetics, food and beverages, 244 brands from 50 companies try to bring their best to the Chinese consumers this time at the expo. Looking at the bigger picture, the cooperation between China and France has yielded fruitful results. Last year, bilateral trade topped $80 billion. China's total farm imports from France rose 40% year on year. But the bilateral ties between the two countries are much beyond just the numbers. French ambassador to China, Laurent Bili, had this to say in a latest interview with me. Mr. Ambassador, what a pleasure to see you once again.
Pleasure is mine.
France is always welcome in China, as it is the country of honor this time during the Consumer Expo. So what is it for you, the message behind this?
Well, first of all, I think I have to thank the Chinese and the Hainan authorities for offering us that possibility to be the guest of honor country. It's same time a pleasure and a responsibility. So our companies have been very motivated to come and to show the best of France. We will have basically 50 companies, 250 brands, covering many different sectors, from beauty, fashion, jewelry, agricultural goods, wine, spirits, distribution services. So it will be quite a large offer, and of course we will be the foreign country the most represented in Hainan Expo.
You will have a lot of ribbon cutting ceremonies, either virtually or in person.
Yes, well, I hope it will be in person, because I think it's good for to be there and to see things. We have normally a very nice pavilion. I hope Chinese consumer will like it.
I remember dearly last time during the Consumer Expo, you were there in person visiting one pavilion after another, the French companies who are setting their booths there, and with the crowd surrounding. I'm sure you have already read the enthusiasm the Chinese consumers have about French products, and also about you as the ambassador to China.
Well, I suspect for me it's more important the enthusiasm about our products. And in fact, it's we have seen it in the numbers in the last year. Our exported on consumer good has been doubled, so it's quite a good news. But I have to encourage Chinese consumer to make still an effort, because our trade deficit is still quite huge. So we really need Chinese consumer to enjoy even more French products.
How do you see the trade ties between China and France, and also France as a very important economy within the EU?
Well, our trade ties have been very important, of course, since the period of the opening of China's economy. We used to say that we have structuring partnership, means that some sector like nuclear energy, aeronautics, were really at the core of our exchanges. We have been contributing to China's not only development, but also moving up the scale on technologies, and especially on the nuclear. It's quite impressive, the work that we have been doing together over the years. So there is that component which is quite important, but it's also a part of a whole which is a fascinating thing, relations for hundreds of years between culture, extreme of the Euro-Asiatic continent, if we make one continent with both. Yes, I think it's important, but also a part of something different, which bond our people together.
Mm-hmm. How much role do you think the trade ties play in the bilateral relations?
In today's world and with economic situation that we are facing, it's clear that this flow of goods and normally people is very important for boosting relation. At the same time, it's also a source of some type of misunderstanding because there is a growing feeling that the level playing field has to be maybe more enthusiastically taken, especially, of course, from a French side. You will expect me to say that China has to be maybe more open and that the level playing field should be more balanced, more to allow the cake to continue to grow and avoid that countries turn back to protectionism. So it's a link, it's a very important link, but it's also something that we have to cherish and to protect, to maintain that level of exchange that we enjoy today.
Yeah, and you can see the efforts that China as a whole and also localities, for example, as Hainan province, trying to make during a year like this to continue with the Consumer Expo and also to honor France as the guest of honor for this year. The genuine efforts by many to try to promote trade.
Yes, of course, for us it's important to see such a platform open and a place for European and especially, of course, French products. At the same time, again, we also need to continue to work on things which are not completely working efficiently at the moment. And we had a strategic dialogue between EU and China because trade is EU competence. And I think it was quite promising in some aspects, but still a work to be done.
Promising aspects. Tell me more about that.
In some aspect like certification, we get the impression that maybe things are a bit moving because we have been some files which are stuck for some time. And also with the new regulation 248 of the customs, there is a lot of companies these days which are facing difficulties to register themselves and to continue to export like they used to do. So I see that these problems are well identified, that we are working on it, and that's the good news, I will say.
I see the resilience of both the embassy here and also many of the Chinese friends of the embassy, even reflected in a National Day party this year at the embassy and your residence, Mr. Ambassador. How do you see this very strong link from the deep at heart that really brings these two countries together?
It's always important to think about the long term, not only in the past, but also in the future. And I think we have been doing a lot of efforts, especially in the field of cultural exchanges, to maintain a high level of activity, especially in 2020, 2021, when it was really difficult and many things were stopped. We have been continuing to bring exhibition like the one on Monet, Soleil Levant, the Impressionists here in Beijing. So we had done a lot. At the same time, we have to acknowledge that it's not so easy and that we reach a moment where the limit in aerian connectivity is really hampering our work. We see a trend on foreign communities which may be a source of difficulties. So I hope that in the coming weeks and months we will see some progress on that situation.
This, of course, is not just limited to French citizens, but I have been hearing personally from my friends here in Beijing and in other major Chinese cities that their countrymen and women are coming back to China more over the past few weeks and 1 month at least. So we hope things like this will continue and the number will increase. Mr. Ambassador.
Well, I've been encouraging people to think about also their decision to leave China because we need these communities to contribute to our friendship in different sectors. We need the teachers, we need the businessmen, we need all what is making a link between our countries.
Under the current difficult situation, particularly due to the pandemic and the global recession, how do you see the two economies, like China and France, with the help and further complementation of each other's trade, will be able to contribute both ideas and achievements of the global economy?
Well, again, I think if we manage to overcome the difficulty that we still face on the level playing field, there is a big potential for our relation. There is the consumer good exhibition is a good sign of the taste of a Chinese consumer for high quality product, for our tradition of luxury, of fashion, and we are a great consumer of a lot of products coming from China in a everyday larger spectrum. So that I think that's a normal way of doing business is with a good level playing field, or the cake is becoming larger and all people will benefit of that. And I think it's very important that we continue to be open economy, and that we both work to ensure that.
Mr. Ambassador, before we go, I would love to have your views about how do you see Chinese consumer is likely to play their role in terms of not only create a market for the French businesses, but also be able to help create better understanding between your country and this country?
Well, yeah. China enjoy, I think, the world greater middle class with 400 million people. We hope to see them back in Paris, in France, and in many places, because also these human exchanges are very important. These consumers are very demanding. They are very sensitive to quality, to the safety of the product. So I think they contribute to push the norm and the producer to be every day also more cautious of their responsibility toward these questions, and also about sustainable development. So I think we are, in that sense, we are every day more in a global world. I think sometimes people in Europe think that there is difference of consumers' mindset, and still about something like a prejudice about Chinese product or Chinese consumer being not that much interested about quality. But that's definitively completely wrong and things from the past. In the opposite, I think today China's consumer are within the most demanding, I would say, and I think it's a good thing, because we deserve safety and quality, so we deserve to buy French products.
I can see you're an ardent supporter of the products coming from the French companies. Good for you in the current role. Thank you so much, Mr. Ambassador.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for
Hope you
inviting
have
me.
a great time either in Hainan or virtually with your counterparts from the business community. Thank you so much, Mr. Ambassador.